Melody Sherry looked into the camera during an Instagram live, her eyes tired and her voice trembling. Then she said something that caught everyone off guard: "I haven't been okay for a long time." That one sentence stopped her entire fanbase in their tracks. It wasn't just a cry for help. It was a painful truth she had been holding in for far too long. People saw her as a strong woman, the woman who handled her messy divorce, raised her kids with love, built her business from the ground up, and smiled through it all. But behind the camera, Melody had been falling apart. And that night, she couldn't hide it anymore. Her voice cracked as she tried to explain the pain. "Y'all don't understand my pain," she said through tears. And you could feel the heartbreak in every word. But what made it worse is that this wasn't just about Martell anymore. This was about something much deeper. For months, people had noticed the change. Her smile didn't feel as real. Her eyes looked tired. She wasn't posting as much. But nobody really took it seriously until that night. That was the night the dam broke. That was the night Melody finally let the world see the weight she'd been carrying for so long. She'd been trying to protect everyone. Her fans. Her children. Even the show. But inside, she was crumbling. And the saddest part is that most of the damage wasn't even public yet. What people saw on TV was only a small part of what was really going on behind the scenes. Melody had been betrayed not just by Martell, but by people she once called friends. People she laughed with, prayed with, trusted with her pain. And suddenly, those same people were whispering behind her back, sharing private conversations, and even taking Martell's side in arguments. Letitia and Destiny, two women who had stood by her during her divorce, had slowly turned their backs. At first, it was subtle. A distance here, a missed call there. But soon, it became clear. They weren't really with her anymore. And what hurt the most was realizing they had become part of the problem. In a podcast, Melody revealed how deeply that betrayal had cut. She said private details were being leaked. Conversations that were supposed to stay between friends had somehow ended up with Martell. And to make it even worse, the producers of the show weren't protecting her, they were pushing the story forward for drama. Melody was being painted as the cold one, the bitter one. But nobody saw what she was dealing with behind closed doors. Nobody saw her crying herself to sleep. Nobody knew she was barely holding it together. And it didn't stop there. This time, the betrayal came from even closer. Melody didn't say names, but during her live, she hinted that family her own blood had turned on her too. That one line she said made social media go completely silent: "It hurts differently when it's your own blood." People started connecting the dots. Melody had opened her home, her heart, and her wallet to some family members. She helped them emotionally and financially. But when things got tough, those same people didn't defend her, they defended Martell. They supported the man who had lied on her, humiliated her, and dragged her name through the dirt. Some of them even went online and made little shady comments. It was like being stabbed in the back by the people you thought would protect you the most. One insider shared something heartbreaking. During one of Melody's worst moments, she confided in a family member. She told them everything: how she had been emotionally abused, how she stayed quiet for the sake of her kids, how hard it was to pretend everything was fine. And that person, the one she trusted the most, turned around and told someone close to Martell. That's when Melody hit her lowest point. But here's the part that will leave you speechless: even after all that, Melody didn't retaliate. She didn't go on Instagram Live and name drop people. She didn't post screenshots or expose messages. She simply said, "God will take care of it." That quiet strength said everything. Her fans, known as the Millimeters, started piecing the puzzle together. They looked at old posts, rewatched episodes, noticed which cast members disappeared during certain times. The signs had been there all along. But we all missed them. The entire time she was hurting, she was still filming, still raising her children, still running her business. And through it all, she kept smiling. But now we know behind every smile, there was a storm. She was journaling late at night, crying behind closed doors, and praying for peace. She wasn't just tired. She was emotionally exhausted. And nobody really knew how deep the pain ran until that night. And just when you thought it couldn't get worse, Melody shared something that broke every parent's heart. During that same live, she said her child looked up at her one day and asked, "Mommy, are you sad again?" That one simple question from her own child shattered her. Because no matter how hard she tried to hide it, her kids could still feel the pain. That's when you know it's gone too far, when even your children can see through the mask. This wasn't just a social media breakdown. It wasn't for attention. It was a breaking point. A wake-up call. Melody had reached her limit, and now she's choosing to heal for herself and for her kids. She may have been hurt deeply, but she's not broken. She's finally letting go of the pressure to pretend. And in doing that, she's showing the world what real strength looks like. Not the strength to smile through pain, but the strength to admit that pain is real, and to say, "I deserve better." Melody Sherry had spent years holding everything together: her family, her public image, her business, and her dignity, while silently breaking apart inside. She tried to be strong for her kids, for her fans, and even for a show that often painted her as either the villain or the strong one who could take anything. But what people didn't see was that behind closed doors, that strength was wearing thin. At some point, the pressure became too much. The fake smiles, the carefully crafted social media posts, the deep breaths before interviews, and the constant pretending that everything was fine, it all started to feel like a mask she could no longer wear. Melody had reached a place in her life where being strong for everyone else had become a burden. She wasn't just tired of Martel and his ongoing drama. She was drained from being surrounded by people who pretended to love her while slowly breaking her spirit. The fake friendships. The shady castmates. The broken promises. The manipulation. The betrayal. It all added up. She admitted that the emotional damage went deeper than anyone could imagine. It wasn't just about divorce anymore. It was about years of pain building up slowly, quietly, until her heart couldn't carry it anymore. Melody said she started journaling late at night when she couldn't sleep. She poured her heart into those pages, writing down the things she couldn't say out loud. Things like, "I feel alone even in a room full of people," or "I'm exhausted from pretending I'm okay." She started going to therapy, not just to process the heartbreak, but to rebuild herself. Every session became a step toward healing. And she didn't just do it for herself. She did it for her kids. She wanted to be a better mom, a healthier woman, and above all, a woman who lived in peace, not just survival mode. She shared that peace wasn't just a cute quote or a social media trend. It was something she had to fight for. Because when you've been hurt by the people closest to you, your husband, your friends, even your own family, peace becomes something sacred. Fame, followers, and a television contract couldn't protect her soul. The cameras could never show what it truly felt like to have your truth edited for ratings. And when you're a black woman on reality TV, it's even harder to be seen as soft or human. People expect you to be loud, tough, or dramatic, but rarely vulnerable. That's when something shifted. Fans started noticing the change. Melody wasn't posting as often. She took long breaks between appearances. Her captions got deeper, more personal. Some people thought she was being dramatic. But those who paid attention could tell this wasn't just about being tired. She was fighting to stay alive emotionally. One of her quotes hit hard: "Sometimes the best thing you can do is leave." At first, people thought she was just trying to sound motivational. But over time, it became clear. Melody was done performing. She was done giving the world her energy while silently suffering. She wasn't angry anymore, she was empty. And when a person gets to that point, the only choice left is healing or self-destruction. Melody chose healing. She started pulling back from the show quietly. According to insiders, she turned down certain filming days, didn't respond to producers' calls, and even postponed signing a new contract. She didn't make a big announcement. She just started choosing herself. And that quiet choice spoke louder than any storyline ever could. People close to her said she had been thinking about starting something of her own. Not another reality show, something more real, more healing. Maybe a docuseries. Maybe a podcast. A space where she could speak freely. Where her story wouldn't be chopped up for TV. Where her tears wouldn't be used as clickbait. A place where Melody could finally be Melody, raw, vulnerable, and unfiltered. And the fans were more than ready for it. Social media exploded with love and support. People posted things like, "Mel deserves peace at all costs, and if she leaves the show, I'm done watching. Protect her at all costs." The energy had completely shifted. This wasn't about drama anymore. It wasn't about ratings. It was about a woman trying to protect her peace in a world that kept trying to tear it apart. Melody had given so much of herself to the show, to her fans, to her relationships. But she started realizing something powerful: no one was coming to save her. No one was going to set boundaries for her. No one was going to fix the broken parts of her soul. She had to do that for herself. And so, she began. Step by step. Day by day. Choosing silence over arguments. Choosing boundaries over explanations. Choosing therapy over online fights. Choosing peace over attention. She began to rebuild the woman behind the name, behind the reality show, behind the headlines, behind the heartbreak. Because at the end of the day, Melody Sherry isn't just a reality star. She's a mother. A woman who's been deeply wounded but refused to let those wounds define her. She's a woman who faced public betrayal and still found the strength to love her children with her whole heart. A woman who stood tall even when everything around her was falling apart. And now, she's no longer hiding behind a smile. She's no longer staying in places that drain her, no longer giving her time to people who don't respect it. No longer playing the game of fake friendships, silent suffering, and social media perfection. Melody is walking away from anything that threatens her peace, and for the first time in a long time, that includes possibly walking away from the show that brought her fame. And that's okay. Because peace is worth more than a paycheck. Self-worth is worth more than social media likes. And freedom, real, emotional, spiritual freedom, is worth everything.